Okay. All right. For those of you who are joining us for the first time since we have made this switch in 2020 to the talking about your brand strategy, and we're gonna weave Usign and other tools that we have into that brand strategy. But we're going to take you through a process for 3 months, and that 3 months is going to show you how to become a brand ambassador and build a brand. So that's where we're starting. Good morning, Stephen and Sam and Ken and Vanessa and Dawn. We've got a good crowd on today. So thank you for joining us. Clarence, I missed you. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to miss you. Anybody else? Lilibet's on with us. Very good. Okay. So we have moved to focusing our attention on how do we use Usign and the tools that we have to help people, first of all, to help you create your brand strategy. And so this is week 2 of focusing our attention on the brand strategy. And today we're going to pick up, this is going to be a little bit short today. We have an overlap of communication today. And so I will end at about 40 minutes. And then Bertram will pick up with the, not with this webinar, but with the next webinar. And because of that overlap, this one will be a little bit shorter to give more time and attention to the other one. So, all right. James, good to have you. And let's see, who else do we have? We have Patricia and we have Sheila. Good. All right. So we're going to talk about the brand strategy today. How do you go about building that brand strategy? What do you do with it? Why is it important? We're going to address those kinds of things. Good morning, Tracy. So let's get started. We're going to plunge into your brand strategy. I have a worksheet for you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share that worksheet with you right now. That way I will not forget it. And you can have that open in a browser for when we get ready to do that, okay? That will work. Hey, Joy, good to see you as well. All right, let's get started. We're going to talk about your brand strategy today. What do we do to, no, not right now, Sheila. We're going to do this webinar right now. So your brand strategy is the reason why your company exists. It's the reason why your company exists. It doesn't exist for any other reason other than for that brand strategy. And that's very different than a lot of things that people have thought and bought into to be the brand strategy. We're laying a foundation right now, and this is a very, very important foundation that needs to be laid in order for you to be effective in doing the work that you are going to do in the world. So this brand strategy is one of the most important things that you will ever do, one of the most important exercises you'll ever do. It's a very precious document. And it's very important that you understand that that document will probably be revisited, and it will be revisited over and over. We'll talk about the whole process of that in just a moment. I'm going to give you a worksheet. The worksheet you will find very helpful, and we're going to walk our way through that worksheet in just a little bit, okay? Your company's sole purpose should never be to make money. Now, it's important that a company make money, obviously. It's vitally important that you make money, but your sole purpose for existing isn't to make money. Think about this for a moment. How often do you as a consumer wake up in the morning and go, where can I spend my money today? You don't do that, right? Making money is a byproduct of creating value for your customers. So when we talk about this brand strategy, it's because our focus needs to be on the value that we bring to our customers and not the focus being making money. If your focus is to make money, you don't ever know when you arrive there. And money is one of those intangible, it's a weird kind of a thing that doesn't really satisfy, doesn't really benefit. But when it's the byproduct of creating value for your customers, it makes all the difference in the world. Had a long conversation yesterday with a man who is at the beginning stages of a business. And he said, this is what we can do from a profit standpoint, but the profit is not our focus. That's what I wanted to hear. The profit's not the focus. Profit is what value can we give to our customers. And he volunteered that information, which I thought was extremely important for our conversation. So making money is a byproduct of creating value for your customers. We've got to get that entrenched so that we understand how important that really is. So we're going to do this document first. We're going to do it today. We're going to walk through it. We won't have time to do it, but we'll walk through it. I'm going to give it to you. I want you to work on that. I gave you a document last week that you were supposed to work on. Does anybody remember what the document was that you were supposed to work on last week? See, you already forgot. It was our client data or our client avatar or our client information. We needed to identify that customer hero worksheet. Exactly, Jaime. Thank you. That's what it was called, was the customer hero worksheet. And that customer hero worksheet is vital to you understanding how you're going to be able to provide value. Okay? So that customer hero worksheet is extremely important. The next thing that we want to talk about here, and you may look at that customer hero worksheet over and over again as well. You may find that you have to tweak that. You may discover that your client's a little different than you thought it was. Interestingly enough, we did a customer survey to find out who our ideal customer was at Usign, and we discovered that we had way more people who were operating as an agency than we ever dreamed were possible. Okay? So this is extremely important that we understand who that customer is. It helps us to refine what it is that we do when we understand who our customer is and we understand who it is that's coming to us. It makes a difference. We can give better value the better we understand the customer. So we gave you the customer hero worksheet. That was step one. Now, today we're going to focus on the brand strategy, looking at how do we build that brand strategy. And there's 5 things that are part of that. The problem. And we'll walk through this. The problem. What problem is it that you solve? How do you solve that problem? Who's your competition? What's your vision, your mission, your values? How do those things come into play in your brand? And then we also talk about the brand affirmation. And a brand affirmation is, what do I tell myself? What do I tell myself? How do I talk to myself about that? Discovered a really interesting thing, that the language that you use to refer to yourself or the things that you do makes a huge difference. And that really helps you from a positioning standpoint. And then a value prop and a slogan. Okay, so we'll look at those today in the worksheet that we have, and we're going to focus our attention now on that brand strategy worksheet. So give me a second. I'll change my screen here. And don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. And so now I'm going to share. This Chrome tab. Do this window instead. Now, tell me if you all are seeing my worksheet. Y'all seeing the worksheet? David, thank you for sharing that worksheet link. And so now we have the worksheet up. Let's start at the beginning. The problem. Let's work our way through this. The problem. What does your company, why does your company need to exist? The why is so important. It is so important. Simon Sinek wrote that book called The Why, Understanding Your Why. The why has become a big focus today. It's not enough just to say what we do. It's extremely important that we understand why we do it. Why does your company need to exist? So to start with, we're going to define the problem that your customers experience. The problem should be something that you're passionate about. If you're not passionate about it, it will show. Last week, there was quite a discussion going on in the chat about you want your business to be different than who you are. Well, that becomes a bit of a problem. People will disagree with me about that, but I really think that your business is an extension of who you are, which comes from your why. And so why does your company exist? The problem should be something that you're passionate about. This ought to be what I do. What I ought to be passionate about this. It's something that you think is deeply unfair in the world. Those are two things: passionate about and something that you can immediately identify as it's not fair that people are in this situation. Does that make sense to everybody? Let me know if you understand what we're talking about here. Excuse me. All right. Now, what we're going to do, I'm going to put down. I'm going to answer that question. You know, obviously, Usign had bad design, visual communications killing small business. Okay. There's a whole bunch of examples of this, but the truth is, the bad design and visual communications killing small business. Okay. For me, and we used my business as an example last week. For me, one of the things that I think is deeply, deeply unfair in the world, and I'm gonna write this out, so I have to stop talking in order to write it out because I can't type and talk at the same time. But I understand this very simple thing, and that is that confusion and complexity. Confusion and complexity paralyze business people. Does that make sense? Confusion and complexity paralyze business people. 20 years ago, I was hired by an insurance company when they came out with software to put on a laptop to go enroll employees in an insurance product. And I watched some incredibly successful people become completely paralyzed because they were confused and they felt like that what they were being asked to do was too complex for them to understand it. And I watched numbers nosedive. I watched people who should have been more successful become less successful because they were confused and they felt overwhelmed by complexity. That has been a passion of mine forever. And so it's an extension of who I am. Understand? If we make things complex or if we make things confusing, then people are stuck and they don't know what to do next. And I think that's unfair. It's unfair that we live in a world that's advancing so rapidly that it makes it difficult for people who should be otherwise successful to stay caught up. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to define, why does your company need to exist? You want to identify what problem is it that you see that you are passionate about and that you feel like is deeply unfair in the world, and you want to write that down, because that's going to become the cornerstone of this foundation that we're going to lay. Is that clear to everybody? And ideally, you want to be able to write that down in one sentence. You notice that I've identified the problem, confusion and complexity. This is what the result of that problem is. It paralyzes, and who does it paralyze? It paralyzes business people. Understand? So we identify the problem first. That's the first thing that we do. The next thing is you focus your attention on how you plan to solve the problem. How do you plan to solve the problem? Now that you know what the problem is, you start refining what your solution may be, even if you're not 100% sure yet. You start defining what that solution is going to be, and then you refine it, and then you refine it. And the part of business growth is all about refining that solution so you get it as perfect as possible. But you don't wait until it's perfect. What you do is you put it out there and you test it. And you'll see that word come up later, okay? We plan the solution to this problem by or with, okay? This sentence is going to help you to create a solution, okay? So, y'all good with that? You understand where we're going? We've gone from the problem to the what? Put the word down here. It's really, really important. You've gone from the problem to the what? Go from the problem to the solution. The problem solvers. Ray reminds us of this every single time that I bring it up. The problem solvers are the ones who get paid. Solving problems are the ones who get paid. And I could put down, we plan to solve this problem by providing simple, detailed training, instruction, which can come in the form of webinars, etc. Make sense? I understand what the problem is. Here, I've identified the problem. The problem was confusion and complexity paralyzes people. We plan to solve this problem by providing simple, detailed instruction, webinars, etc., etc. Okay? It could be so they don't have to think about it, right? But these details come as we go. The point is we have to be able to provide simple, easy things to follow, because the way that you eliminate the confusion and complexity is that you get it to its simplest details, right? How else would you solve for a problem of complexity and confusion? Do you understand how to relate those two things? Because without it, we're really going to be in trouble. For you, Zion, the problem was that bad design and visual communication was killing small business. The solution was allowing entrepreneurs with zero design skills to create powerful brands with tools and training. So what did Usign do? They created a great tool, and then what else did we provide in addition to the great tool? And the reason why it was a good fit for me was because you can give people a great tool and they still have this problem right here, right? So by allowing entrepreneurs with zero design skills to create powerful brands with tools and training. And that became the role that I was going to fill, right? The solution. We plan to solve this problem by. And you need to know what the problem is that your business and your brand accomplishes or tackles, and how you plan to tackle it. Everybody good with that? We'll move to the next one. Thank you, Michelle, for sharing that customer hero worksheet, because it's important people have that. Competition. The next step in the process is I need to know what problem I solve. I need to know how I plan to solve it. And I need to know what my competition is doing. Why is the competition important? Anybody want to guess as to why the competition is important? Michelle said something really important about this, and I don't want to get lost on this, but it really helps. It validates the market. If there are other people who are doing that, then obviously it's a problem. And obviously it creates an opportunity. Competition validates the market. Now, let's talk about the competition for a minute. Great comments being made, by the way. The competition who will you compete against? Even if you don't do a full-scale competitive analysis, and you should do that at some point in time, you should always be aware of who your top 3 competitors are and how they communicate. And I'm going to tell you what's the most important part is right here, how they communicate. What are they saying that makes them distinctively standing out in the market? And what is it that you need to say that will sometimes what happens is that I want to mirror the language of the competition, and other times I want to counter it completely. But this exercise will inspire you to find your own way. Do nothing right now other than go to their website and copy their headlines and their subheadlines. And if you'll do that in this worksheet, and you just list who your top 3 competitors are. For example, what Usign did was they took PicMonkey, Photo Editor, and let's see, who else do we have here? We picked PicMonkey, Canva. Who else do we have down here? And Stencil. Okay. Now, those are the top 3 competitors: PicMonkey, Photo Editor, Design Maker, Idea Realizer. Those are great titles, right? They're great. I like these headlines. Now, look at this subheadline. Everything you need to make your ideas come to life. It's never been easier to feed your creative beast. Look at Canva. Design anything, publish anywhere. Those are great headlines. Now, what that does is it helps me to learn. I can take advantage of their market research. I can take advantage of their testing. I can take advantage of the things they did. I don't want to copy their headline word for word, but I can easily take a look at that and figure out how are they communicating to their constituency, whoever that might be, to their audience, whoever that might be, that are actually paying their bills. So it's very important for me to pay very careful attention to my competitor. Who am I going to compete with? Because competing it validates my market and it helps me to understand how they're communicating. And then it also helps you to define your own way. In my situation, because I think confusion and complexity paralyzes people, I had to figure out who my competitors were, because I'm going to solve that problem by providing training and support and those kinds of things in a simple fashion that can work. So who does that make my competition? This one's going to amaze you. And this is going to help. Thinkific. I'm looking at Thinkific. I'm looking at platforms that provide that level of training, right? L has a really, really good question. What if you're in an emerging market? Okay. Let me quote somebody far wiser than me. There's nothing new under the sun. However, there are some ideas that are being expanded and extended. And so I want to jump on whatever it was that caused that market to come out of nowhere, because it didn't come out of nowhere. It came out of a need. It came out of an example. And we may take your business and run with it because it is an emerging market. We may do that in the next time around, but because I already have some ideas about how to make that work. That emerging market is extremely important, but it came from somewhere. It came from a foundation. It didn't just come out of nothing. So we do exactly the same thing. We take a look at what got to be here. All right. Netflix actually learned some things from whatever that video thing was that used to do video things, right? Everybody has the ideas are expanded upon and expounded upon and perfected. Blockbuster, that's a word I couldn't think of, because I didn't expect to have to say that this morning. But what you want to do is you want to take a look at the competition. You want to read their headlines. You want to look at their copy. You want to figure out what it is that they're doing. And then from there, you can begin to formulate. You haven't done that yet. All you've done here is identified the problem. Remember this, you've identified the problem. You're in the process of identifying how you plan to solve that. Now we're going to take a look at the competition to figure out how we're going to communicate that. Do you see the evolution that's taking place here? Is that clear? Until you know what problem you're solving, you don't have anywhere else to go. And then once you understand how you're going to solve that problem, then you start to look at, how do I communicate that? And I'm going to look at what's my competition doing so I can figure out how to communicate that. If I create a brand new language to communicate, then I'm not going to be able to take people from what they know to what they don't know. 7 laws of learning, you take people from what they know to what they don't know. So I can't create a brand new language. I've got to build on the language that's already there. Make sense? And the competition helps me to understand how I'm going to communicate. From a marketing standpoint, we talk about competition in a different way. Okay? We talk about that in a different manner, but I want to figure out, how am I going to communicate to people who I want to move them from what they know to what they don't know. All right. The next step in this process is the vision. And at the vision, this is where we want to understand why our company exists. Why does my brand exist? Why am I here? What's the purpose? And remember when we talked about the thing that we were passionate about? That's where this becomes extremely important. Okay? A vision. Why does the company exist? Your vision is the most powerful piece of your brand strategy. It's the future of the business, which then provides the purpose. The vision statement is about what you want to become. I want to take what I'm passionate about, because that's going to propel me into the future. I can't create a passion out of nothing. I can't create a passion out of a desire to make money. I have to create a passion out of a desire to add value. And so that vision, where do I want to go from here? What do I want this to look like a year from now? What do I want it to look like 2 years from now? What do I want it to look like 5 years from now? I'm planning for what that future is going to look like. And I have to be on the cutting edge of that. You might want to write this down someplace because I think this will be helpful to you. Every single thing that you are working on today is in the process of becoming obsolete. Your flagship product is in the process of becoming obsolete, right? And because everything's in the process of becoming obsolete, it's really, really important for me to have a vision of where we're going. It is discouraging, but listen, my mother was the best key punch operator on the planet. Elle mentioned the typewriter, same thing. Pretty soon that becomes obsolete. Everything that we have is in the only thing that's happened in the last 25 years is obsolescence has accelerated. That's the reason why vision is so important. The vision statement's about what do you want to become. It's your aspiration. I don't want to hang on to the past. I want to embrace the future. And I really like this statement. I used to use this all the time when I was talking to business owners on a regular, everyday, multiple times a day basis. If I had a magic wand, what would you do? Right? If I had a magic wand, what would I do? If I could recreate the future, what would it be? If I could put myself into the future, what would I be doing in that future? And so that's important. Here's what goes wrong sometimes when people create vision boards. They have it about the stuff that they can accumulate rather than having it about what they want to become and what they want their business to become in the future. Yeah, Michelle, that's the ugly truth, is that whatever you're working on is going to become obsolete. And so, and we've used this phrase a lot in the past. You should spend your entire life learning, unlearning, and relearning. All right. So have to grab onto the future, the vision of the future. What does this business look like? Okay. What am I going to do? And what I discovered in the process, okay, what I discovered in the process up here of the problem, confusion and complexity, was that I needed to provide a way to provide training, right? And so this word right here was key. And I discovered from my competition, people really liked this look of this platform. So rather than put it on Thinkific, what I decided I would do instead is I'd have somebody create a Thinkific lookalike. Make sense? Because I knew where I wanted to go. Now, what does that future hold? I don't know, but we're going to figure it out. And as we go in the future, we're going to make training easier. We're going to make training easier in the future. We're going to make it more responsive. Today, we can carry training around in our pocket. A couple of years ago, I worked with trucking companies that had to upgrade the training for their drivers. And we made it available on an iPad. Much easier. You have to start looking into the future. I have more than, when you look at this example right here, I have more than 2,000 how-to videos that I've created over the past 3 years. I realized that a whole bunch of those are either obsolete or in the process of becoming obsolete. So what do we do to make that work better in the future? How do we make that faster? How do we make that clearer? Okay. That's my vision. I have to hurry. I'm sorry. The mission. How do you plan to get there? How do you plan to get there? What is it that you do? My company, and I can put my company name in here, okay? Was founded with a single objective And I can fill this out. Right? My company was founded with a single objective, and that was to make complex things simple. Because how do you solve for the biggest problem is that complexity and confusion create paralyze a business owner. How do you solve for that? Well, you have to make complex things simple. Lots of ways that you can do that, but you have to make complex things simple. And so we have to create a vision around that. And this becomes my vision around this. Okay? So this is my vision. What am I going to do that's going to make that work? Okay? And then, so this is my vision. Usign says they want to enable faster, better, and simpler design, branding and visual marketing for entrepreneurs thanks to innovative tools and training. Somebody, and I forgot who it was, posted in the group this just yesterday that he had 800 pieces that he 80 pieces that he had to create product covers, and he was able to knock those out yesterday by using Usign and just spit that because the tool's fast. The training's fast. Okay? Now, we take that single objective. This is my mission. I know exactly where I'm going to go. I need to get to the other side of the island. I need to get from here to the other side of the island. By the way, does anybody know where that term, the other side of the island, came from? Just throw this in here before I have to go. I wish it was Gilligan's Island, but it's not. Actually, the fact is that one of the most popular books ever written was called A Message to Garcia. And it was about something that took place a century and a half ago. And the premise of that book is I had to get a message to Garcia. It was published in more languages than anything else. I may even get a copy of that and give it to everybody on next week. I'll see if I can do that. Okay. But to get to the other side of the island, the mission was to get the message to Garcia. You can, it's like 7 pages long. You can read it quickly. All right. So next thing, and we're going to have to hurry, is the values, the principles, and the brand affirmations. What beliefs and principles ground your company? Your principles are fundamental truths that will never change. Those principles are fundamental truths that will never change. And you have, this is your foundation. Okay. This is your foundation. These are the foundations of the ways you behave and interact with your staff, your customers, everyone around you. You can think of these in 2 ways. Principles and values are pretty straightforward. These are unshakable truths that you hold in the highest esteem. You behave toward others and how you expect others to behave towards you because you hold those values to be true. All right. So that's the first one. Second one is brand affirmations. Imagine your customer being a bike racer. I really like this illustration. Imagine your customer being a bike racer, racing to his goals, and you're cheering him from the roadside. What kind of encouraging phrases would you yell at him? This is powerful to unearth your values as brand affirmations. I thought this was a fascinating illustration because I was a track coach when I taught high school. And I can remember getting to know each one of my athletes. So I would know the things to say to them when they were in the heat of competition. Those became my brand affirmations. Those became the things that I was known for when my athletes would refer to me later. Those things stuck in their head. Brand affirmations. Principles and values, pretty straightforward. These are unshakable truths that you hold in the highest esteem. And I'll give you one of them real quickly here, and then I have to get off. This one right here, I felt like my job as a teacher was to prepare my students for the future, regardless of what my reason for teaching the class was. And so I've got 14, 15, 16-year-old kids that are fixing to drive. And I taught them some things that would be valuable to them in life and then also valuable to them when they were driving. Because my value was I have to prepare these kids for life. 15 years later, I see a sign up on a State Farm office. And it's the name of one of my students who I knew his dad had been a State Farm agent. I walked into the office and he said, Coach, I have to tell you something before you say anything else. Don't even sit down. I have to tell you this. You remember that thing that you taught us about driving? I said, yes. He said, it saved my life 3 times. 3 times I've had to make a decision that you told us we would have to make. And that has saved my life 3 times. I'm blown away. But that's the value. It's something that this is an unshakable truth. I hold that in the highest esteem. And he said, and I've used it in my life. I've taught it to my kids. And went on and on. Do you understand how valuable that is? When I understand what my principles and my values are, then I stick to that. Then I can create affirmations around that. Are there any questions real quickly? Because I've got to jump off. Yes. The worksheet was probably still right here. Okay. Yeah, no, that's not it. I copied that. Sorry. Can anybody else drop that worksheet real quickly? And in the next webinar, we'll catch up. Okay. Thank you, Patricia. I appreciate that. All right. Anything else? We'll be back here next Friday. Like I said, I have to leave early today because we have an overlap of time. But you have the worksheet. We've laid some foundation here. We'll talk about positioning, value props, and taglines and slogans later. Okay. It's the same webinar link that we use every week. You'll get, if you signed up for this one, you'll get an email that will tell you when to get on the next time. Okay. All right. Thank you all for joining us today. I've got to jump off.